In 1952, Edith Eibold placed a small ad in the Evening Independent, inviting parents of children with developmental disabilities to a meeting in the St. Petersburg City Hall. She later stated it was an exceptional surprise when 26 people came. These grassroots efforts helped parents find the support system they needed and find programs and services focused on their child. Many, including Thelma and Jerry Gilbert, were part of this pioneering group.
Scotty was born back in March of 1956, and it turned out to be that he had something happening in the head, they tell me, the doctors, that cut off his speech. But he is, and has still been over all these years, the most wonderful, very sweet little boy. And then I started bringing Scott, because at that time there was no such thing as somebody picking him up or taking him home. We had one bus that would take care of some of the children whose parents could not even get them out. But that's how we started. And then when that grew a little bit more, we really started having fun. We would take them to the pool, water, each of us taking our one child that we were taking care of. We used to go to Chuck E. Cheese. We had a lot of things donated to us to interest the children. And we were then called, believe it or not, Peter Pan. We were not PARC. We were a very small group, but people were absolutely just really marvelous.
PARC incorporated on April 23, 1953. As the school continued to flourish, parents were realizing that they needed to think about the future. In order to meet the community needs, it was time to grow.
Well, it started when my wife and I had our first child. And the child was not developing in the normal pattern. Once we learned that Leslie was retarded, mentally retarded, we started heading in rehabilitation and habilitation direction as opposed to rockabye baby and things like that. We start a regimen of visiting physical therapy places and speech therapy places. So the Peter Pan School started to emerge, and I said to everybody around me, because by that time we had a nice group of people working together, I said, this place will never go places unless there's somebody in charge. And there's nobody in charge right now. You have a few teachers, you have a bus driver, you have a lady who takes care of the books. I said, you're not going to go any place unless you have somebody in charge. So Carol Holland, one of the strongest, most faithful, reliable volunteers, said to me, Bert, she said, why don't you take it?
With PARC's vision in place to expand children's services as well as include adult activities and residential support, the community was embracing the agency and stepping up to lend support. Founding PARC Golf Tournament Chairman, as well as former board member and chairman, Chuck Burkett.
I was asked one day to come over and take a tour because there was something special going on here at PARC and I knew nothing about it, so a friend said, you got to take a tour. So I came over, and who did I meet? But I meet Bert Muller. Those of you associated with PARC that have never met Bert Muller, he's a guy you can't say no to for anything. And Bert took me on a tour, and I'll remember it like it was yesterday. It was during nap time for the kids. And I went down the hall, and we went into a room, and all these little kids were sleeping, laying down sleeping, and I walked in the room, it was so quiet. And when I walked into the room, this one little girl was next to me, and she got up, and she came over and grabbed my leg, hugged it, and I picked her up, and she put her head on my shoulder, and I was hooked. From that day forward, I got hooked, and that was, I can tell you, in about 1972 or 3.
PARC's growth would not be the same without the involvement of LARCs, a volunteer group dedicated to furthering the efforts of the agency. Susan Hicks, past president of LARC.
Years ago, when I was first started in LARC, the members of LARC spent a lot of time at PARC. They did a lot of hands-on kind of things. They'd take over in a classroom if somebody wasn't there. They'd work in all the areas of PARC. Another event that was wonderful is Sandy Burns was president of LARC, and back then when we had the Phantom Ball, occasionally we would have an honorary chairman. And somebody came up with the idea of let's have Rose Kennedy, because she was so involved with the mentally handicapped, with their daughter that they had. And so Rose Kennedy, believe it or not, said she'd come.
The legacy of the Grassroots efforts remains steadfast in future leadership and the choices offered to the individuals served at PARC. Kurt Thomas, past president and CEO.
I think the part that really struck me and continues to interest me is the fact that for the most part, in fact probably for all part, these folks have just not, this is not something they did wrong that resulted in a problem. It's a situation that they just came to life, and in the process of that life process there was something just not the same as everybody that we would consider normal. And in the process of that, what could we do to give them a better quality of life? And that to me was a real interest and a real fascinating challenge. We were always able to find the right kind of people who were professionals in their own right, who understood the needs we had, and we would empower them to do what they needed to do and in that capacity, and allow them to create new programs and everything as they see fit. So it was a case of trying to keep ahead of the curve and do what we felt needed to be done to the best of our ability. And of course finances had a lot to do with that. And we were blessed, and even though there were difficult times, overall I have to look back and say we were certainly blessed here at PARC.
Pioneering, resilient, innovative, mission-driven, all words that describe the foundation and history of PARC and remain with the organization today. From the original small group of parents to the steadfast leadership, dedicated staff, and inspiring adults and children throughout its 60 years, PARC's history is a testament to what an organization can do to better the quality of life for all.